I gave up my corporate job 12 hours before my first day, so never actually made it there. I now run a company called Platter, which is an e-commerce software company. We basically help Shopify brands build more profitable storefronts to help them make more money. I was building out a business unit to enable instant delivery for .com websites. So it was essentially giving you the ability to go to the .com store, buy something and have it on your doorstep in 30 minutes, which was pretty revolutionary. I saw all the things wrong with eCom and was like, all right, there's an opportunity to like try to fix some of this. I think entrepreneurs are curious people. Just like look around you, see what's out there, start tinkering with things. Something will eventually hit and become like more than an idea, and then you wake up a couple months later and you're like, holy shit, I'm building a business.
We're in you're Austin, so how far?
We're remote. I just live in the area.
Where do you go out?
I don't go out that much.
No?
No.
It's all on the grind.
No, I just like, I stopped drinking. And I think once I stopped drinking,
When did you stop?
2 years ago,
Okay.
my choice of social activities have changed.
Yeah. I've done 8 months was the longest, but it's like your preferences entirely change. Do you know what
I just think you like, the other thing too is that you just spend time with different people based on the activities I found. Like I think the biggest learning I had when I stopped drinking was the amount of relationships I had that were based on drinking. Yeah. Like where are you going out? Yeah. What's the next activity? So I think inherently it's just like relationships have evolved and then hobbies have changed.
Yeah.
But I think when you stop drinking and then get a girlfriend, going out is just like not really my choice.
As long as you got the girlfriend, you're in good shape.
Yeah. No, I'd rather go to like a nice dinner and hang out than go clubbing till 4 o'clock in the morning.
Dude, yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah. So I did that. I had the girlfriend, the living girlfriend.
Oh wow.
And that made the sober 8 months like easy because you know.
Oh, so you were sober when you had a girlfriend?
Yeah. But as soon as the relationship fell apart, I could no longer
back on the bottle. You know what's funny actually is my girlfriend has never seen me drunk before. She's never seen me have a drink.
Oh, dude, so yeah.
Because we've been dating for like a year, but I stopped drinking 2 years ago.
And it's like a totally different vibe, right?
Yeah, but she's like, I would rather keep it that way.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, you're gonna get a different type of girlfriend too. You know what I'm saying?
Well, especially also where you meet them.
Right.
I was talking to someone about this. I'm like, yeah, I'm sure if I met my girlfriend at 3 a.m. at a club, her activities or our activities are probably different than if I met a girl like at a coffee shop or a gym. Like it's just a different lifestyle.
Yeah.
I have nothing against it. It's just preference.
Well, that's interesting too. It's like where you meet kind of influences the type of relationship that's built, you know?
100%.
Guys, what's going on? Chris Hansen here, One Network. I'm doing an episode with Ben Sharf. He's the founder of Platter, eCom software. You know, we've had a lot of those types of companies on. He's also got a podcast here in New York, in Soho, in the neighborhood. Ben, good to have you on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Getting some good clips here anyway. But Ben, you want to give kind of like a little bit of background to the audience on what you do, how you got involved, quitting your day job and getting in business?
Yeah, I gave up my corporate job 12 hours before my first day, so never actually made it there. I now run a company called Platter, which is an e-commerce software company. We basically help Shopify brands build more profitable storefronts to help them make more money. And then I have a podcast, as Chris said, called Turning Pro, where we also interview founders and entrepreneurs.
Nice. What made you kind of start the business or take the big jump in the first place?
I think there's a couple things. The first one is just like consumer so omnipresent in my life. I realized like I'm a huge consumer of products. I have a lot of friends who are building brands. Realized it was like central to my relationships, and then also coincidentally, my last job, which was at GoPuff, was centered around working with e-commerce brands. So I think when you have an intersection of your hobbies, your knowledge base, and your skill set, it kind of just felt like an obvious arena for me to play in.
What were you doing at GoPuff?
I was building out a business unit to enable instant delivery for .com websites. So it was essentially giving you the ability to go to the .com store, buy something, and have it on your doorstep in 30 minutes, which was pretty revolutionary.
So that kind of gave you like a taste, I guess, of like, you know.
I saw all the things wrong with eCom and was like, all right, there's an opportunity to like try to fix some of this.
Do you remember the exact moment when you decided to like go? I just had a friend who he has been in the corporate world, not the corporate world, but he's worked for a bunch of startups, you know, from Penn, and he basically was going to start his own company. Like he got laid off or something.
Yeah.
But then 4 or 5 months later, I hear he's interviewing again. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like one of those things where I talk to entrepreneurs all the time and billionaires and people who've made it, but you know, I guess it's just not that easy, you know, statistically.
Yeah, I also think there's a difference between like you get let go from a job, your back's against the wall, versus something is a side. No, I think it's more like it's a side hustle until it's not.
Right.
Like I recommend any entrepreneur who's going to start something, like do it at night, do it on the weekends, make it a side project until it's too lucrative and you start going backwards by not spending more time on it.
That's interesting. I've seen that too. Yeah, so you think you really go for the side hustle. That's how you did it? Or?
Yeah, I think for like a first-time entrepreneur, you don't need to like quit your job and then be like, all right, now I'm going to lock myself in a room and stare at a whiteboard for the next 12 hours until like a good idea comes to me. Dude, you just got to like tinker with shit. Yeah. I think entrepreneurs are curious people. Just like look around you, see what's out there, start tinkering with things. Something will eventually hit and become like more than an idea, and then you wake up a couple months later and you're like, holy shit, I'm building a business.
Did you budget it out before you made the dive?
No, so my co-founders made the jump first.
Got it. Okay.
Because my position at GoPuff was very lucrative for the industry that we were trying to be in. And then when it hit a point where like the business was making money and all the relationships were already had and the business was now going backwards at the expense of me not spending more time on it, it was like obvious.
Do you feel like having the co-founder was critical for that?
Yeah, I think people who are solo founders are crazy. At the same time, I respect them. But I think being an entrepreneur, you need to be like at least 1% unwell. And then I think solo founders are at least 2% unwell.
Between 1 and 5, yeah.
Yeah, but I think solo founders are like double whatever they would have been with a co-founder.
You're like that much closer to being a normie if you have co-founder.
I think so.
And then
and I don't think that's a hot take.
Yeah. So did you know where did you meet, or how do you kind of know the co-founders?
I have 2 co-founders. One of them was a childhood best friend, and the other one I worked with at a previous startup.
Did you know he was like legit from a business perspective? Like, you know what I'm saying? I've worked with friends before. I know a lot of people that work with friends, and it's great, and they've sold to companies. But like, did you ever worry about like hurting the friendship? Or?
No, because I think we had like talked about tinkering on ideas for years. So I think, you know, he also has a very good understanding of like separating business from personal. Yeah. So even if like shit crashed and burned tomorrow, like we would still have an understanding that like the friendship we've built over the last couple of decades is different than the business we've built.
Nice. Cool. But cool. Okay, so how quickly did it take you to like get the company go? Like, so you said it was already going and moving, making some revenue, profit, whatever, before you took the jump?
Yeah, but like it was far from, there was enough there to justify like putting more attention on it, but by no means was the path linear.
Right.
I think the volatility of entrepreneurship is very underestimated because most entrepreneurs don't talk about.
They don't talk about the bad moments.
No, exactly. So like we went through 4 iterations of the name before we landed on, like 4 iterations of the business, both brand and like conceptually, to get to where we are today. So when someone looks at it like, oh, it's so cool, like the name, the brand, the mission, I'm like, yeah, but you don't understand that we didn't just wake up and put this on paper. This was like iteration, like of hours of customer conversations, learnings, etc.
Yeah, and so, you know, you can zigzag back and forth. Like, that's what people don't get, is like sometimes you got to go back and forth a couple times. It's not even just like one up and down. You switch it, you switch back, then you know. Yeah,
to get to the sidewalk from here and the concept of entrepreneurship, it's not just like you walk and get there. It's like back, forward, left, right, up, down.
Right.
One day,
you have to have the forward momentum to eventually, or the persistence, you know, to actually get to the end of the line. So what, just walk me through like the dynamics of the business model, for people who might not know how it kind of works.
Yeah, we have an interesting business model where we're both software and services.
Okay.
I think that has become like a hot topic over the last couple months because
blended software company.
Because most traditional software businesses didn't think about generating revenue or turning a profit for like the first 10 years of their business because they raised a bunch of venture money.
Yeah.
We have a services arm. It's tech-enabled services, so we have a services component to it.
Did one come first?
The services piece came first, and that was methodical because the way we thought about it was work closely with the people that you want to make your future customers and take the learnings through services to figure out how can you productize something here.
Got it. But yeah, dude, the question about the services is I feel like there's a lot of risks in developing technology. Is it going to break? Is it not going to work? How did you kind of manage that or think about not having any experience building out a platform like that before?
Yeah, there's an element of trust that goes into this with my co-founder because he has built technology previously and I watched him do it at the last startup we were at. Like we worked together at a COVID testing startup that scaled to 50 million in revenue in 5 months, and he was in charge of product and growth there. So I was like, all right, I trust this guy. And then I've just always had an appetite to build software because I think the game services and software are different games that you're playing. There's no right or wrong answer, but I actually like how we've ended up at a mix of both of them. It kind of lends itself to either side.
In terms of like the ICP, like who are you going after? What types of businesses?
Yeah, we're going after
different segments.
It's really e-commerce brands that are using Shopify that are doing at least 7 figures in revenue, but typically the brands we work with are like 5 to 25 million in GMV.
Are there specific niches?
It's typically like low to medium price point and high SKU counts. So like supplements, beauty, accessory businesses. A lot of the technology we build is around gamification.
Okay.
So it's all around cross-sell, upsell to help like increase average order value. So you want a lot of SKUs that are impulse purchase behavior driven.
Do you guys have a lot of competitors on the market? Or people you view as competition?
Yeah, there's competition. I think if you're trying to build something that has no competition, it's probably a really bad idea.
All right, then there's no demand for it.
Yeah, there's no demand for it. Like most successful businesses today are just like innovation through iteration.
No.
It's like there's not that many novel concepts today unless you're like at the forefront of AI and you're the first one that
That's
like
the only thing,
like okay, OpenAI and DeepSeek, like those are for sure but now it's saturated. I think that's like a very big misconception for green entrepreneurs where they're like, no one else has this idea, I can't talk about it. But the truth is that if your idea doesn't exist in any capacity, there's no demand for what you want to sell.
Right. I've ended up in that like an empty room a few times because I thought it was a novel idea, and then it's just like nobody fucking wants to.
No, it's like if anything, you should like look at what your competitors do, understand like what people don't. Yeah, what people don't like about it, what you can do better. Is it customer service? Is it feature parity or better feature? Is it price point? Like you have to be different somehow. But if there's no competitors, you should probably pivot your business.
How are you getting clients? How are you getting marketing?
It's all organic content, referrals, relationships.
What kind of organic content is this like?
My podcast, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, a lot of relationships and referrals, and I think word of mouth. Like, the best marketing is doing good work for clients who send you new clients.
Yeah, we're a network company, so we're totally based on all that, those principles. But so, in terms of the organic though, how are you the main person at the company doing that? Yeah,
I've dabbled in content in the past, and I think it's something that I really enjoy and something that I think I'm decent at. Like I've done some YouTube stuff and podcast stuff, and it's something that I enjoy.
Sort of new.
But I also just think in today's world, like community and content and owned audience is defensible.
Right.
Because most channels are commoditized.
Yeah.
So you need to like stand out and be different. I think it's very untraditional for like people building e-commerce software to be doing like unique marketing tactics. So to the extent that we can like catch someone's attention by being different some way, I think it's extremely valuable.
Have you built a system internally to come up with viral content or just content that delivers qualified leads?
I wouldn't say viral.
Not viral, but that hits some sort of pain.
Yeah, we definitely, there's methods, like we're methodical about like how we think about scaling content systems. I think running content is like a business in and of itself, like to do it effectively, to hit certain cadences, to get out on like the right channels, while also not trying to take up too much mind share in doing it, because it also can be very grueling if you don't know how to do it effectively.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Any challenges or hiccups that came along the way?
Oh my God. Yeah.
The big issues.
In terms of the content side or just business building in general? I think being naive in a lot of instances, right? Like, I think a big one is the idea of knowledge versus belief, like thinking something is a good idea versus knowing it's a good idea by having like data to prove that it's a good idea.
Right.
Right, like you
Your
think you should.
It's not always right.
Yeah. And you should trust it, but it's not always right. I think being naive about just
you
like.
think it is when you start, because like you're in the first few stages, like a lot of things are like you're like, okay, this is a genius, like I just invented something.
And you're excited to share it with everyone, and then people are like, what is this? I think the other biggest thing is that everything takes twice as much time and twice as many resources as you think it does.
Yeah.
That is like a huge learning. So I think with more time as an entrepreneur, you become more pragmatic about like what's realistic in terms of what you can accomplish.
Okay, so yeah, that's the hiccups. Like, what no issues like with the team or HR related, like hiring people?
No HR related. I think like hiring is an iterative process, learning about like the culture you want to build. Yeah. I think you can find someone who's really good at the job, but if they don't vibe with the culture that you have, it doesn't always work.
Right.
Right. Like if someone's looking for a clock in at 9, clock out at 5 p.m. type of job, don't join like an early stage, fast growing startup.
Yeah.
But again, I think it's just continuing to be 1% better every day in terms of like iterating on your processes and always like asking yourself questions to just challenge beliefs that you have to make sure you're always improving.
Okay. What objectives are you guys trying to fundraise for the SaaS side or the software side? What are like kind of some long-term objectives that you're trying to do?
I mean, the big one is the public launch of our app that's happening in February. So that's like really put the foot down.
Long term, have you guys thought about like a 5-year or like what's your?
Oh yeah, I mean we have a vision in terms of like what we see the business taking shape into. It's really the intersection of like traditional dev agencies and then traditional software companies under one umbrella. So it's about like enabling the ability for brands to build high converting storefronts cheaper and faster without compromising quality through a combination of software and services. For us, it's just like now we're at a place where we just are trying to scale.
Do you have any mentors or like people who have taught you that you follow, or particularly online figures that our audience would have heard of?
That haven't been heard of.
Self-taught. Yeah. No, that have been heard
of.
Would you vouch for anybody who's like explaining how to build an e-com business or a SaaS?
Oh, I don't know about e-com specifically, but like there's definitely like figures that I look up to, irrespective of my industry, and more just like operators. Right, like Michael Rubin is someone that I've always looked at.
Yeah.
The founder of Fanatics, like people who
white party.
People who just like have a knack for relationships is really the thing that I love about what he's done. Like that dude, he's built, but he also manages a network at scale unlike anyone I've ever seen, which is fascinating to me.
Top of the game.
And when you're like a CEO or an operator of a large scale business, like your job is relationships.
Yeah. But yeah. Do you want to talk? Can you talk about the sobriety?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I didn't have like a drinking problem. It was actually a personal choice because I'd never run before, and then I woke up one day and decided to run the New York City Marathon. But I'd never run more than 5 miles in my life at one time. So I was like, I can't fathom.
How well did you do?
I ran 4:06. It was 3 years ago when the average Strava time was 11 minutes slower. It was like so hot out and people were dropping like flies. It was crazy.
That's crazy, man.
But I was like, I'm gonna go sober for 12 weeks for training because I couldn't fathom running like 15 miles hungover on a Saturday. And then I drank again after I ran the marathon twice. And I was
After you ran it?
No, like I went sober for training for 12 weeks, completed the marathon, drank again. Because I was like, I'm only going to do this during training.
Yeah.
And then after I drank one more time, like my body just rejected it. And I was like, I missed the way that I felt when I didn't do this. And I haven't had a sip of alcohol since.
That's crazy, man. So what do you, there wasn't any like time where you considered going back? Like it was just like a...
I mean, there's moments when I was like, I don't know, like a nice cold beer seems interesting right now, but I don't know. I think I appreciate the benefits more than the thoughts of like what a 1 or 2 drinks will do for me.
It's like the one thing I noticed, like being not drinking for, and I didn't have problems, sort of like a lifestyle choice too, but the one thing I noticed is like when you get back into it, obviously you haven't done this before. It's hard to get back into it because it's like the taste changes, you know what I'm saying? And then you start to like be more aware of the deficits, whereas if you're drinking regularly, it kind of blends into your daily life.
Yeah, because you have no baseline to compare it to.
Yeah. Any other kind of productivity tips or stuff that you found helped, especially having become an entrepreneur? Yeah,
I've nerded out over sleep over the last couple months. That's been like a big topic of curiosity for me.
Okay.
I think I'm very anti this idea of like sleep for 3 hours a night and just like crush coffee, Adderall, and nicotine all hours of the day to build a business.
My formula.
I sleep 8 hours every night or try to sleep 8 hours every night because I feel like I'm way more sharp when I'm like well rested, and I think cognitively operate at a whole different level.
More consistent.
Yeah, I just make better decisions.
Yeah.
So I think that's been like a big one.
I've heard a lot of people say that who are respectable, far along business people. They always say sleep or getting 8 hours is like.
Yeah, I think the one person who said something about it that resonated with me was Brian Johnson. I think what he's doing is a little like crazy, but yeah,
Brian Johnson is
the dude trying to live forever. And I'm not suggesting by any means do what he's doing, but he made one comment that stuck with me, which was, everyone knows sleep is the most important thing for us, yet it's the one thing we let get dictated by everything else in our life, which is like really fascinating. So it's like if you reverse that and actually prioritize it, you're probably going to see a lot of benefits from it. So that is something that I definitely value. I think, I don't know, I wouldn't say anything I do is like out of the norm. Like I'm into like health and wellness, but that's more of a lifestyle choice irrespective of entrepreneurship. Right. I think a productivity hack would probably just be like find something, like build something around your actual genuine interests so then it doesn't really feel like work. And then I would say the other piece of it is spend time with people that like bring you up in terms of what you're doing. Because someone asked me like, oh, like how do you find time to spend time with friends when you're building a business? And I was like, well, I mean, a lot of my friends are also building companies. So like while we're spending time together, we're also like nerding out on building businesses. Oh, exactly. So it's just like the intersection of your hobbies and your business, or your income, I guess.
Social life tied to the business in some way. Like there's a network.
I do the same thing.
It's just it's more seamless, and it also keeps you in that mindset.
All the time.
Going out drinking with the buddies, you get out of the mindset.
You add them into your routine already. So for me, it's like my meetings, instead of going for a happy hour, it's like a workout or a sauna or a podcast or like things that I want to do anyways.
Cool. Walk me through the podcast. Like, how did you start doing that, and how's that going? What's your process? Yeah,
that actually, the way it started with my co-host Adrian, like the SparkNotes version of it is I reached out to him on LinkedIn because his company was doing something that I was trying to hire someone for. Yeah. We got on a call, and the 30-minute call turned into a 2-hour call that ended with us agreeing to start a podcast together, which like seems crazy, but that's actually what happened. And then I told him the only way I'll start a podcast is if I can optimize for consistency. And the way we did that was turn my living room into a podcast studio. So we bought all the equipment, turned my living room into a studio, and decked it out. And I mean, we filmed 75 episodes at this point. And then we eventually hired a full-time person to essentially run it. Nice. So for me, I always knew that the only way it would be possible is if I had people who could help like do all the operational work. So now my job is really just like sitting down and having conversations.
Do you have like a dream podcast guest that you want
That's an interesting question. I would say that I haven't really started like shooting for the stars per se yet, because I wanted to like prove to myself it's something I can do for a long period of time, and also like a craft that I want to get a lot better at. But you know, like I think even sitting down with Michael Rubin would be a cool conversation.
Yeah, they had him on the Nelk.
Yeah, I saw that. It was a great episode.
Yeah, I think you can get into it if you DM enough, throw off enough DMs.
Yeah, you can find a way. If you backs against the wall, it's problem solving.
Nice. What's the hardest lesson you've learned, or you know what I'm saying, that people wouldn't expect that you have learned that you would impart on somebody who's quitting their job tomorrow to start the company?
That people wouldn't expect.
That they would not expect. That they would not be aware of.
I mean, I don't think you can ever over communicate the message of like it's not as glorious as it maybe seems. Yeah. Like people say they expect that, but like I think a lot of people actually don't expect that, because it's kind of hard to communicate until you deal with it yourself. Yeah. Most entrepreneurs communicate all the highs and positives in their journey, but like don't really talk about the negatives of it. Yeah. It's a pretty lonely thing to do, because a lot of entrepreneurship, in my opinion, is like being misunderstood for a long period of time until all of a sudden you're understood.
Yeah. Interesting. Cool. Ben, where can people find you, man? Who can hit you up to work with you?
If you're building a brand or have a brand, happy to be helpful, talk to you, jam on ideas, and see how we can be supportive of whatever you're building. Can find me on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, at Ben Sharf across the board.
Hell yeah. Sweet. Thanks, Ben, so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
It's One Network.